So I do want to thank some other folks. There's two handsome gentlemen that I'd like to thank. Everybody know who the person on the left is? Yes, and who's the person on the right?
Awesome host from yesterday, Colin.
Yes, awesome host from yesterday, Colin, yes. And I do want to thank the facilitators and Doctors Without Borders. The theme was Beyond Limits, and I wanted to find something that was beyond limits, was maybe on the edge, where things, you know, you wouldn't think would be aligned to agility. So that's what inspired me for today. So Colin definitely inspired me. So as you see here, oops, let me get back. You know, for me, I've gravitated to regulated industries. So, and I think, you know, sometimes people think that I'm kind of crazy because, you know, regulated industries is not necessarily always the first thing you think about when you think about agility. But I believe that, you know, Agile can be anywhere. And so for me, I've kind of gravitated to regulated industries. And what I want to start off with is, what's your experience in hiring for Agile teams? Has it been a dream? Has it been meh? Or has it been a nightmare? So I do want to note this is an interactive part. So I want you to type in the chat whether it's been a dream, meh, or a nightmare. And then Rucha will let me know what we get. Maybe I can stop and we'll see. I'm getting a meh. Getting a nightmare, sort of a dream to meh. Yeah, getting a meh. I don't know what Salala is, but maybe someone will tell me. So dream, meh, or nightmare. Oh, freshers. So freshers might be good. Yep. They have new thinking versus all of us old people. Yes. What else? Okay, so I'm getting a lot of oh, good. So we got some dreams. That's good. We got some dreamers. So for me, it's been a nightmare. And it was a nightmare before I tried something different, because I got very, very frustrated hiring for Agile teams. And what was kind of my frustrations were, we had to hire the right candidate who fit in, because we were concerned about hiring for the team, and we wanted to hire someone that fit into the team culture, that the team didn't spit back out and said, you know, well, this person doesn't fit in, you know, are you crazy? Don't you know us? Like, you know what type of team we are. We were doing too many interviews over too much time. So we had 5 people that wanted to be a part of the interview. It was scheduled by management over 2 to 4 weeks. So it took a month maybe to interview just one person. Now, we could be hiring multiple candidates in that time, but the whole process end to end for one candidate was maybe 4 weeks. The team wasn't included in the candidate interviews, and it was difficult to gain consensus on candidate selection, because a lot of managers would go like, well, I forgot Colin, that was like a month ago. I think I gave Colin a 3. That's about it. And then oftentimes candidates accepted another job. And so we would be, I don't know, on interview 4, and the candidate was like, I got another job, sorry. So, you know, that was just very frustrating. The other thing is that we couldn't tell like who was a collaborative person. So of course, like some people would ask, are you a collaborative person? So everybody put in the chat, are you a collaborative person? Let me know. I actually like the refreshing honesty of folks that say, no, I don't like to collaborate. I like to work by myself. That's at least refreshing. But for us, collaboration was our #1 criterion for hiring. Technical skills was not. What we were finding is that somebody maybe with very strong technical skills wasn't the best in the team setting. We wanted that collaboration. We also wanted to prove people would say, yeah, I'm a collaborative person. And we'd be like, well, prove it. But we had really no way to prove it. So these one-on-one interviews weren't producing the type of collaboration test that we were looking for. So we wanted candidates to prove it. And so what we figured is we threw up our hands and we said, we need another way to interview where we could really test collaboration. So let me actually hide. So we decided to apply Agile to hiring. And this is what we were told. You can't apply Agile to hiring. Like, it works for software, it works for product development. It doesn't apply to hiring. You can't, I don't know, apply Agile to people. We were getting so many people told us that we couldn't do this. It was, it was not the right thing to do. We had to stick to regular hiring. So we said, we're going to do it anyways because this is not working. So we have to try something different. How bad could it be? So what we developed was what we called extreme agile hiring. And so what did that look like? We leveraged a different interview and hiring process. So the main thing that we did here was change from one-on-one interviews to group interviews. And if we had one position or two positions or three positions opened, we brought in 25 candidates. It didn't matter. It could be for one open position. We still brought 25 candidates in. We included all hiring stakeholders, the team itself, HR, managers, everyone. Everyone was there. We held one group interview per month, so it was a 2-hour session. So we only hired once a month for an internal company. We focused on key differentiators like collaboration. So we interviewed all the candidates at one time, 4 to 5 per table, and we had them collaborate via simulations. And our goal was to provide offers immediately upon the session end, immediately after the group interview. And we did blind voting among the hiring team. So we didn't have this collaboration sessions that went on for hours or days or weeks. We said, we're going to do it right then. So for a lot of folks, that was extreme. How did it help? It solved a lot of our problems. We had plenty of candidates to choose from. The interview process was simplified. We had one interview a month. Everybody knew what it was. We took 2 hours on one day versus 5 hours per person over 2 to 4 weeks for one candidate. All hiring stakeholders were in one place in context. We didn't have this issue of, well, I can't remember Colin or I can't remember Leon. We focused on collaboration as the #1 criterion because we felt that it was key to team culture and success. And simulating collaboration in teams produced the differentiation we were looking for amongst the candidates. And we made offers immediately, and we didn't lose folks. We didn't lose any folks in the candidate process or an interview process, although we might have lost some folks that didn't even get to the interview, maybe because they got another job, right? So, and that was always out there. But we made offers immediately after the group interview, so it reduced that chance of a candidate leaving for another opportunity. Now, I'm sure you have a lot of questions about this. But let me first delve into group interviews a little bit. So what it means is an interview where more than 2 people are involved. And so that can mean any number of candidates, like we did 20 to 25, are interviewed together at the same time. So that's kind of a candidate group interview. Another way to look at it is one candidate is interviewed by one or more different departmental representatives at the same time, known as a panel group interview. Ours was really more of a blend. It was more of a simulation interview. We didn't have panelists ask questions of the interview or the candidates. They just observed. So, and maybe we asked some questions here and there, but it wasn't something where everybody was asking questions where it was more like an interrogation. We didn't want an interrogation. That's what we did not want. But were they effective for us? And in general, group interviews can be very efficient. So we can review multiple candidates at the same time, so save time. We can see which candidates work best with others. And we can see these insights, right, into fits with company culture. where we might not be able to get in a one-on-one interview. There are a lot of people that interview well, but are not good on a team. That's what we were finding. And we wanted to show some stress because is software development stressful? What do you think? It can be stressful at times, and we wanted to simulate that stress. And what was funny about this is that we found that we got some insights into how people reacted over stress. What did this look like? I'll have you take this in a little bit. So for one interview, let's just say we had 16 candidates. We would have 4 per table, and we would have flip charts at each of the tables. So you see the 4 candidates each table, 4 chairs there. They'd be all around a big, I'll call big conference room, or big, almost like big meeting room, you know, where you'd have maybe all hands meetings. At the front of the room, there'd be the hiring stakeholders. So we would have HR, we'd have managers there, we'd have team members there. We would also have team members sprinkled in amongst the candidates. And the hiring stakeholders were mostly observing the candidate simulations, because what we found is, you know, we just by observing, we got a lot of information about how candidates would perform in terms of collaborations with folks. How are they collaborating, especially under stress? And this was a 2-hour simulation. We had 3 activities, everybody present, everybody was collaborating. I'll take some questions on this for the moment. If anybody had questions for a moment, just on this setup, this group interview setup. And so if anybody has any questions, they can type in the chat and Rucha will let me know.
So there's one question we have. Did team members pose as candidates?
Yes, and they loved it. They completely loved it. Every time the month would come up, it would almost be like competition to get into the interview process from team members. On the flip side, the other team members that didn't get into the interview would be like, it's on you. So if we don't like the candidate, we're blaming you. So it was this interesting, you know, what would happen in the past was the team members would blame management. And they would say, well, you don't even know anything about our team and you're hiring people for our team. It flipped the script. So now team members almost, I mean, they felt like, and it was true, they were part of the hiring process now. So when a person came on the team, no one was blaming management anymore. They were blaming the other team members, or the team members who were involved in the interview. So, and I think blaming is a little too harsh, but they would be looking at the team members going like, okay, it's on you this time, right? So that was an interesting dynamic there. Other questions, comments on this setup?
Yep. Thank you for answering that. We have another question. How do you resolve competition between candidates?
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that a little later on how we came down to it. What's interesting about this, and this was across the board, we put candidates in 3 categories. Number one, they're candidates that felt like for me to succeed in the interview, I needed to take over, or I needed to shine, or I needed to be a type A personality. Those are ones that we saw right away, and we almost always threw out. We also saw some people that were checking out, mentally checking out. They lost interest. They, weren't into it. And we also tossed them aside. What we really found, the people that we gravitated towards were people that were actively helping other team members, and were people that were almost like natural scrum masters, or wanted to help other people at the expense of themselves, maybe shining in an interview. And what we told them, and we were very upfront about this, we said, we're observing your collaboration skills. We didn't want to hide it. We didn't want to make this a secret. We're going to observe your collaboration skills. And what we found is that under stress, people just forgot about it. They forgot about the whole idea was collaboration. They wanted to shine so that they were noticed. And in a team setting, sometimes that's always not the best behaviors that we're looking for. Other questions?
Yep, there's a related question. It says, did the candidates know the situation they were walking into?
Yes,
Example, if the team
absolutely.
members were posing. Yeah.
Absolutely. We told them that there were team members posing here. So, and this is the whole big thing about it. We did not want to make anything a secret. We did not want to make it a gotcha. We actually told them ahead of time, before they even came into the interview, what the setup would be. That it would be a group interview, that there would be multiple candidates there, that some of the candidates would be team members, but they may not know who they are. And it was going to be about collaboration, not their technical skills.
Cool. Thank you for the answer. There are quite a lot of questions or comments. So would you like to take them now, or in the interest of covering topics you
Yeah,
would want
I,
to?
I'll move on for a little bit and then we'll come back to questions. How about that?
Yes, that works.
I
Thank
think
you.
I do want to say, I think we really did not want to make this a secret or make this a gotcha or make this we did not want to deceive anybody at all. In fact, we felt like it was against our best interest to try to deceive people or to hide things at all times. We were completely honest with them in any question they asked. Yet we had still people trying to tell us their technical skills or trying to give us their resume, which we already had, and look at certain things on the resume. We tried to tell them that was not the point of the group interview. So this is what it looked like. These people had never met each other at all. This was the first time they were meeting each other. And we wanted to make sure that we were observing them collaborate, right? You can see them collaborating. And when you just focus on observing, when you're not thinking about questions to ask, you can really take that time observing people and observing what's going on. And you see there the hiring stakeholders, they're observing, they're maybe looking at a resume and then looking at candidates. We actually drew where candidates were, so we knew who was where. And then we had them present. We had them actually present. What we looked at was someone trying to take over the presentation? Was someone trying to make sure that everybody talked, like everybody got a chance? Maybe help some people out, maybe pair with somebody. Those are the behaviors that we were looking for. And when we did 3 rounds of this, and I'll tell you about our activities we did 3 rounds of this. The first round was rough. The second round got better, and by the third round, they all got to be very comfortable about what they, were doing. So it was very easy for them by the third time. So they got very much into it. Back to, so what happened? So I'll break it down a little more. So we informed the candidates and staffing companies ahead of time. Everyone knew ahead of time what the deal was. They got the opportunity to ask questions. We had some people walk out. I will tell you, most enjoyed the experience, and most people said they'd never had an interview like this before, and they loved it. Because we weren't giving them gotcha questions. We weren't saying, what's your greatest weakness? We weren't saying, speak in stars and give me situation, task, action, result. And if you don't speak in stars, we're not going to hire you. We didn't have any of that. We also weren't telling developers, code this for me. We did not want to do that. We didn't want to have those type of technical interviews. To me, that's, we all had bad experiences with that. We told them that the group interview and the simulation was about collaboration. We would say that constantly, multiple times. So we didn't want to make it a secret at all. And we interspersed team candidates among the team members among the candidates to get an idea of what really went on and get buy-in on the hiring. So more about this. We did 3 simulation sessions for a total of 90 minutes. So we had 2 group collaboration and presentations, 1 timed group activity to create stress. We did the marshmallow challenge, if you know what the marshmallow challenge was. We did some Lego games, but basically the 3 simulation sessions were a total of 90 minutes. Each table got to present multiple times. We wanted to see everyone. We wanted to hear everybody speak. We wanted to observe them and how they were working. We also took the last 30 minutes to make a hiring decision. So we did blind voting to the top candidates. We literally get scraps of paper, said, who's your number 1 candidate, developer? Who's your number 1 candidate, Scrum Master? Who's your number 1 candidate, BA, tester, etc. And HR prepared offers on the spot. Most candidates and staffing companies stayed behind to find out the results. So imagine if you went to an interview and you either got an offer or didn't. Isn't that great? You didn't have to wait. So for people that didn't get the offer, they thanked us and said, thank you, because now I can move on. I'm not waiting by the phone the whole time. What did we realize? Everyone enjoyed the experience, except for some people that walked out. HR loved seeing all the candidates in action. Hiring managers liked having the same experience, so we weren't asking like, well, I thought Leon was great. Well, I thought he was terrible. We all were in context. We all saw the same thing. The team loved being a part of the interview. Most candidates liked the process. Admittedly, some had trepidation. Most hires were good hires. The team took responsibility to onboard, train, and coach new hires. So it wasn't like where we did it, we foisted a candidate on them, right? And we weeded out jerks. So people that were trying to take over. We saved time for everyone and saw more folks. So everyone saved interview time. We interviewed more candidates than usual, and we found some diamonds in the rough. People that may not have interviewed well, but were great with the team. What did we realize? Teams are all about collaboration. And my hypothesis is I'm not sure that you can teach adults collaboration. You either got it when you were young or got it about teams, but it's really difficult for me to convince you that collaboration is important if you don't know it innately already. And we think, and certainly I think, collaboration is more important than technical skills. You could be the best developer in the world. You may not perform well on a team. Group interviews are good collaboration tests. So candidates who interview well were flummoxed by the process. Type A extroverts often took over and stood out negatively, and candidates who intuitively helped out were seen. So sometimes people that may not perform well in interviews did great when they were with a team. And once we did group interviews with teams, we didn't want to interview or hire any other way. What were some negative aspects? So some people were freaked out by the process. We had some walkouts, people refused to show up. Candidates wanted to know if we would discuss technical skills. The staffing companies told us it was wrong for us to do what we're doing. And I was like, are we breaking laws? And literally some of them were trying to find out if we were breaking laws with this, or labor code violations or the labor board. Some candidates didn't pan out. If a team needed deep technical skills, some candidates didn't meet the need. Some candidates, or I will say this, that no candidates left due to team culture or team fit. We lost some candidates before our interview. So some candidates needed a job immediately and couldn't wait for our one-time-a-month interview day. So final thoughts, and we'll get to more questions. Group interviews are far more effective than one-on-one interviews for team members. Group interviews can save time, money, and headaches, but extreme agile hiring is not for everything. I think it's good for teams, but may not be good for individual contributors. And one of the things that we did is we created our own, what we called our Agile Hiring Pyramid. So if you look here, there are a lot of dimensions. I want to go through some of it. So what we felt like was in the bottom of the pyramid at this foundation, someone has to be collaborative. In the middle of the pyramid, the three corners, if they have domain experience, if they have some tech experience and agile, that's great. So we like a candidate like that. On the outside, if they are locally based, even if working remotely, if they're locally based, understand the local context, and have some diversity to the team, that's good too. We wanted to weed out were the jerks. So we did not want a jerk on our team. And we wanted to weed them out ahead of time. And we found that our group interviews did that, especially the simulations under stress, when we gave them 15 minutes to do marshmallow challenges or a Lego game. Okay, so I'm going to take some other questions that Rucha had, but I want to ask, do you think that this is an agile way of hiring? And what elements are and what elements are not? What elements are agile? What elements are not? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Or you can just talk about it.
Yeah, I think the once a month hiring may not be too agile, especially if it's the day after the previous interview date. You have to wait for a need 30 more days, even though the process before, I'm quite sure, was longer than 30 days also.
Yep. What's interesting about it is it's like almost like a 1-day sprint, right? Because we're doing almost all of it at once, except for the background. HR would do the background. But HR had never in the past offered someone a position the same day, literally like the same hour, right? Yep, agreed upon the values up front. We knew what we wanted to do up front. We knew that we wanted collaboration up front. We knew what we were hiring for. Wasn't a secret. We didn't want to make it a secret. Other things, what was agile, what was not agile? Yep, transparency was very important to us. We did not, I mean, this is the job, this was serious. We didn't want to have a gotcha or have any secrets or deceive anybody with what we were doing. And again, what was interesting is that people forgot all of that once they start working with the team. Yep, test and learn approach with candidates, we did. And we improved the group hiring process, the group interview process as we went, we did. And that's exactly right. What we basically did is HR said, well, we got to have something. So they gave, and I don't think I talked about this a lot. They gave people a 90-day temporary period, or and if they didn't match out their technical skills, we had other candidates. And what was interesting is that other candidates, even though they didn't get the job, they called later on and say, hey, can I be a part of what you're doing? Because what you're doing is so interesting. So we had other candidates still keep up with us, even months afterwards.
I think having a team involved was very agile as well.
The what?
Having the team involved in the hiring.
Yes.
In the interview process.
Exactly. So if you think about it, it made perfect sense to us. And we were wondering, like, why are we having people that are not a part of the team hiring for the team? It doesn't make any sense. And how is that going to lead to success? And some of the managers didn't even know the team, but they were hiring managers. So HR said, no, you're blessed to hire people, right? And that was kind of the dynamic there. I think John asked a question, was there any absolute criteria? Might the number one candidate one month be the number 12 the next? Did you ever take no one? Or there were some cases where we took no one. There were some cases where we literally took no one. That was true. Did you hire managers? No, we did not hire managers using this process. We did not. So I don't. Let me do this bigger picture. No. So it's weird for me to say this, but managers are individual contributors, I guess, because theoretically they're not part of a team, although I would argue they are. But for HR, from HR's point of view, they didn't want to hire. HR actually, I don't think would let me hire managers this way. They were just like, no, you can do this for team members, but we're not letting you do that.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it had ever been a thought. Yeah.
No, they were just like, okay, we'll give you a little bit of rope, but definitely not that way. Like they were not going to do it.
We have a few raised hands. I think Adina was one of them. Adina, do you want to go?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment. It's more of a dissemination of my experience, and I would like to know how you feel about that. So even though I also work with teams and like group training and group interviewing and so on, it feels to me that somehow it kind of doesn't keep in mind the Maslow pyramid. I will go deeper into explaining what I mean by that. It doesn't really give, I feel, equal opportunities to everyone, because someone who comes from a like scarcer financial background and would kind of could be qualified, but because of their kind of need for that pay, thinking of that pay. So their focus would be more on, I need that, not necessarily in performing very well in the team. So for me, it's like, I would like to ask, how do you actually make sure that you are providing equal opportunities for everyone, because not everyone starts from the same starting point. Some people have had to, so some people don't have the financial pressure and they would say, well, I can wait for 30 days. Or people are like, I don't need to think about my next month's pay because I can do that. So sometimes I've seen people taking like maybe less well-paid jobs, or even wait for a better job or for a better opportunity just because they really needed that. And they would say, well, maybe next time or whatever. So how do you actually make sure that someone, like everyone, has that equal opportunity? Because sometimes society is unfair, but I feel like to some extent we're kind of contributing to that unfairness, and well, yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So let me just say, in reality, there were some people that had accepted some jobs but hadn't just started yet, and we would be on the schedule and they would go to an interview and we would ask them, or hey, like, keep in touch with us, like, because you never know what's going to happen. And we actually hired some candidates even maybe 2 years after we interviewed them at some of the organizations I had. So the other thing, we hired junior developers, we hired junior BAs, because what we started doing is the team started coming to us with more than just, I need a BA or I need a developer. They would come to us and say, you know what, we need a junior developer. We need someone our senior developers can mentor. Or and they would encourage actually having, let's just say, junior staff members, which was very interesting. They never really came to us before like that. They often wanted the best candidate because they weren't sure how many openings they would have in the future. So if they never knew, right? We would communicate with them more and tell them how we were going to be hiring for the future. So we wanted to, I would just say, we wanted to keep in touch with good people no matter what. And if they took a job, maybe an Agile coach took a job as a Scrum Master, a lesser job, we would say, keep in touch with us. So because we're going to have another opening in the future, and we'll bring you on then. And imagine that, right? Imagine finding someone ahead of time that everyone agreed with, that everybody remembered, that we were all in context with. So where it wasn't a situation where, oh, that Leon guy says that he likes Colin. Well, we never all met Colin. Guess what? You all saw him. Everyone agreed. And so the process was just, let's bring him on. Everyone agreed. So it worked out really well. But Adina, you're right, that the time periods in between, we missed out on some candidates. There's no question.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There's
other questions?
Yeah, there's one question, which is, the theme is quite repeated. So it says, did you test for technical skills in another way to supplement this process?
So first, they had to pass HR thresholds. Okay, number one, they had to have technical skills on the resume. Number two, they had to talk to someone at HR about their technical skills. So they couldn't even get into the interview without going past those things. The thing about one of our technical managers wanted to, they may have talked to some people there in the interview about some technical questions here and there. But to be honest, what we found is that we found the people on our team would, if they had any technical gaps, either the team would take care of it, or they would train up and learn whatever technical gaps they had. And the team would actually be fine with it. And the technical managers were fine with it. It was kind of an interesting dynamic, right? Sometimes I think when we're hiring, we're almost, it's like you hire somebody and then you're only looking at the gaps that they have. And I think what I've seen with team members and developers is that there's some people on a team, they're just lifelong learners. You can figure that out when you see a developer that grabs a book in a weekend and comes back with some new stuff, right? You can see their passion for learning. And I think that's what we were looking for, was, what's your passion for learning? And that's interesting. Now, Alan, yes. Now, Moonway, is it Moonway? Brought up a point I was just going to bring up next. So one of the things we realized is we could potentially miss introverts. And are there introverts in technology? Raise your hand if you think they're introverts in technology. Yes. So we already knew this. So So it was so important, and we would emphasize this before every session. Introverts though can't hide in this. So we get to know you, we get to see you, and we got to see how exactly introverts don't raise hands. You didn't need to, but we could see introverts work. And that's the beauty of it, is that we didn't need introverts to take over a session or to dominate a presentation. We didn't want that. We didn't want that at all. We could see introverts shine. And that was the beauty, I think, of the group interviews and the simulations, is that really introverts really shined, and they stood out to us because we were looking for them. We were not looking to hire the type A personalities or the extroverts all the time. Not that we didn't hire extroverts, but we were really looking for the introverts. And I got to tell you, that's really difficult. I mean, it's really difficult to say, well, what's your criteria for introverts? I can just tell you, we saw them. They were seen by us, and we picked them out immediately. We could pick them out by the first session, first simulation.
Cool. In the interest of time, and I can definitely take a few questions from the chat box, but I would just like to leverage this opportunity for people to just unmute themselves and ask. That might be a little more interactive. Also, if you can have your cameras on, that would be awesome if the bandwidth permits. I think it's a great discussion.
Hi, Leon. Just a quick question. How did you resolve the disagreements on selected candidates? It was just blind voting, or was there anything else that you guys did?
Yeah, so we started with blind voting. So our first cut was blind voting. And so what you do is, let's just say we're hiring for 5 candidates, or maybe 3 developers. We would say, what's your top pick, second pick, third pick? And we kind of did sorted it out. So we'd see who had number 1. What was interesting about it is nobody, there weren't a lot of major disagreements on hiring at all. Because we had the situation, again, when we were taking half an hour doing this, we had the situation of, we might have a situation, let's say where a hiring manager and a team member, let's just say, disagreed, okay? The hiring manager, most of the time, would defer to the team member. And would say, especially if they were out in the audience or out in the candidates, they would be deferring to the team member. And it was an interesting dynamic, because you would think the opposite would happen. You'd think the hiring manager would say, no, I know how to hire people. This person's the right person. We would often defer to the team members. And what we saw over time is that the team members were often hiring without a lot of pushback or disagreement from anybody else, including HR. Isn't that an interesting dynamic?
Absolutely. No, thanks for that.
There's a related question. It would be nice if you can clarify on a bit more on blind voting.
Yeah. So literally, we had slips of paper. So if we were hiring 3 developers that day, let's just say, you had who is your number 1 developer, number 2 developer, number 3 developer, and let's just say 5 people all put their number 1, 2, and 3. If 3 of the 5 people pick Colin for their number 1 developer, we'd say, okay, Colin's number 1. Anybody have any major objections to Colin? Yeah, exactly. Colin is number 1. Anybody have any major objections? Now, what we found is somebody might have had Colin number 2 and be like, oh, well, I had him number 2. That's fine. But if we had a situation where Colin wasn't even on the list, or someone had a major disagreement with Colin, then that might be a problem. But most people were like, okay. So if Colin was 3 out of 5, he was hired. Got an offer right then. And the number 2 is the same way. We go for, okay, who were the number 2s? Were any number 2s number 1? And then who had the most number 2s? Boom, that person, any disagreements? Boom, that person's hired. Number 3s, same thing.
Thank you. And related questions, if there were disagreements, how did you resolve them?
Yeah, we talked about it. Now, were there some cases, I would say in rare cases, we had a major disagreement and we didn't hire somebody, but that was very rare. I would say that's probably, I don't know, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 hires, 1 out of 30 candidates would be like that.
Okay. Just in the interest of time, and we can continue this, but of course, Leon, if you have the time, I just want to take one last question before I go for the instructions for the next one. Anything from the audience? If not, I'll pick a question from the chat box. So any thoughts on adapting this method for a consultant pool where you don't have a team, but you still need strong collaboration skills?
Yeah, now you definitely can use this to test collaboration skills in any format. And so, you know, even though we were using it strictly for teams, you can use this to test collaboration skills for anybody, right? I think, you know, to me, it's more powerful for teams, but you can do this with anybody.
Cool, that helps. Thank you. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, I think there was a comment. Richard, did you want to talk about that a little bit? But I think I like your comment out there. You know, no, like, so this is not a perfect process, okay? This is not perfect. We were just hoping for better than what we were doing, because what we were doing was not working. It was not working at all. Especially wasn't working for our teams. And I think that was the main point, is that we wanted something that worked for our teams. And we wanted to have a team focus in hiring. And I feel that sometimes organizations and managers and executives miss that. That it's really about, if we're talking about team hiring, it's about the team. And what does the team need? And including the team in hiring. I think that's the thing, that if you don't take away anything about this, take away that. Include the team in your hiring decisions. It's about the team.